Hello everyone, I'm FARMERSIM, and these are my top 22 mods that I cannot live without in Farming Simulator 22. Mods that I activate on every new save game that I create. Now these are not tractors, tools, implements or buildings, these are all quality of life mods. Mods that change the game behaviour, give you extra settings that weren't ordinarily there, mods that give you extra helpful displays, and allow you to customise the game to suit your own style of gameplay, and generally make life down on your farm a whole lot easier. Now these are all PC only mods, almost all of them bar 2 I believe can be downloaded from the official Giants mod hub, and I'll be working down my list in alphabetical order. So, let's start at the top. So the first mod in the list is Additional Game Settings by Rockstar. So when you have this mod activated in your game, when you jump into the menus, you are given a new tab on the left hand side here, as you can see identified by the 3 lines and the 3 squares. So quite simply, these are the list of things that this mod gives you. So starting at the top, you can see you can turn your HUD, your heads up display, on or off quite simply. So when it's on, jump into the game, you can see the information there in the top right hand corner. Turn it off, it's gone, quite simply. We'll keep that on for now. The crosshair, you will then, obviously, if you have the heads-up display turned off, the crosshair is obviously automatically turned off with it. When you have it on, you are then free to adjust whether you have the crosshair on, partially on, or completely off. You can then alter the fade-in effect when switching cameras. Now, this comes in increments of 100 milliseconds. It's quite a nice touch, this, to be honest. I'll put it on to the maximum of 1000. Basically, you're free to adjust it within increments of 100 milliseconds from 100 milliseconds up to 1000. But the fade effect is really quite nice. So there, I've just jumped out of the menus, and you might have been able to tell that there was a nice kind of fade there. But you get it again if I jump into a vehicle. You see it gives you a nice fade into the vehicle. I'll flick to the next vehicle again. There you go. Just a nice kind of artistic fade. It's really quite a nice one, that. So that's what that gives you. Let's turn that to off for now. You can change the visibility of dialog boxes that are displayed. For example, after buying or selling a machine, free to turn those on or off. Camera scrolling on edges, move the camera with the mouse in object placement mode and turn that on or off. This is quite a clever one. Auto start, automatically start the game when loading is complete. Free to turn that on or off, however you prefer it to be. This is also a clever one. Items in the shop, you can display all items, you can display default items, just items from mods or DLCs, just mods, just DLCs, or all items again. So that's quite a clever thing, especially if you're trying to find a mod. If you've got lots activated and you're trying to find a specific one, for example, and you know it's from a DLC or you know it's a mod, you can filter what you can see just to find it, so that's quite cool. Blinking warnings, again, turning on or off the visibility of notifications displayed in the center of the screen. Down to gameplay, the gameplay settings here. Now this is a really cool one, custom lighting. What it does is essentially it finds and understands the different maps that you've got in your mod folder, and you're free to select the different lighting, custom lighting engines or settings that those individual maps have. So for example, I can play Calmston Farm here using the lighting, the custom lighting from the Vintage Oaks or from upper Mississippi River Valley, or obviously you can go through the list for whatever map you prefer the lighting from. So that's a really cool setting. You can change the vehicle camera smoothness anywhere in 10% increments from off to 10% all the way up to 100%. Again, player camera smoothness, same again, 10% increments from 0 to 100%. You are free to have a trailer heads-up display on or off. It displays a fill indicator above the trailer while filling, and you can change that setting to appear from in increments of 1 second, or the base set, the smaller setting is 0.5 seconds, but all the way up to 10 seconds, so that's pretty cool. Can be quite helpful, that little addition. Easier engine starting, on or off. Now this is also governed by the game settings for automatic engine start, on or off. They kind of play against each other. I tend to have that on so I can just press the accelerator key when wanting to start the engine. Depth of field, the visual enhancement, you're free to turn that on or off. Now personally I can't really tell, especially where we are at the minute, just looking at what we can see in front of us, the fact that this is depth of field turned on, and if I turn it off, it's kind of difficult to notice the difference, but there are certain views and certain times when you can tell the difference. But Either way, you're free to turn that on or off to your heart's content. Camera collision adjustment, you can turn that on or off. Now that's quite a cool thing. When you have camera collision adjustment on, for example, if I jump into this tractor here and just pan around a bit here, the camera will zoom in when it recognises that I'm trying to view me and the tractor that I'm in, or the machine I'm in. It recognises that there's an object in the way and zooms in. So that's that. Whereas if I turn that off and jump back into the vehicle and pan around again, there you see the difference it makes. Again, it's down to personal preference, isn't it? I always tend to have that turned off. So yeah, that's that. Then we are free to turn the wild animals that roam around the maps on or off quite simply. And then you are free to have a date displayed in the top right hand corner of the screen. So, and you can have that customized in various different options. So you can have it, I always tend to have it off, but you can have it displayed as just the hour and the date, a short version of the date, a long version of the date, or back to off again. And again, whichever one of those settings you select, you can have it displayed in the top right, top left, or bottom left, depending on your personal preference. You can change the colour background of the time. It puts a little box around the time, and you can change the colour on or off. You can change the colour of the text for your clock, and obviously 24-hour clock needs no explanation, doesn't it? You can have it as a 12-hour or a 24-hour clock. So quite simply, that's additional game settings, but it does offer quite a lot of customization. Next on the list is additional field info by Yummy. Now essentially what this does, quite simply, is it extends the field information box in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. The bits of additional information that you get from this mod it displays the area of each field in the current land that you're stood in, the current land area. It gives you the price per hectare of the cultivated area on the land that you don't own. At the minute, as you can see, we have that bit of information displayed here because I don't own this land, and it also gives you potential harvest quantity and yield on the ready to harvest fields. So as you can see there, field 3 area, it displays that as 19.84 acres, and it also tells you the area of the land that this field is in. So the whole piece of land that you would buy is 21.3 acres. The current field area is 19.84 of those 21.3 acres. Because we don't own the land, it tells us that the land is worth £26,110 per acre. It gives us the potential yield of 3.63 tonnes per acre, and the harvest quantity, potential harvest quantity, at 105,976 litres. So again, very helpful, subtle little mod that just gives you a little bit of extra info when you walk in and out of a field. Next mod on the list is Autodrive. Now, I'm not going to be going into a full Autodrive tutorial in this video, obviously, because that's an entire multiple number of videos in of itself. But yes, Autodrive is a mod that I will always activate in every save game that I have here on Farming Simulator 22. What essentially what Autodrive is it's a self-created GPS network that's entirely map specific. You make your own network for each individual map that you play on. And essentially it looks like this. It looks very complex, I can appreciate that. I've just brought myself out in front of the workshop here just to show you. This is one that I made a long time ago. What you see here is essentially this little bit going into the silo here. It's a reverse line for a tractor and trailer to reverse into the silo and tip automatically. And Autodrive essentially allows you to send any vehicle, whether it's a car, truck, tractor, trailer, whatever, combine harvester, anywhere on a map to a specific point, as long as you have created and wired in that specific point. So for example, if I just pan around there, as you can see in the distance there, you can see field 1, so I can send a tractor from anywhere on the map to field 1 or field 2, whichever, as long as you've wired it in. It is a very complicated mod, but when you've got your head around it, it's wonderful. And when you combine it with its ally Courseplay, the automation that you can bring to your game is just wonderful. You can harvest a field using Courseplay, and you can have Autodrive drive a tractor with a trailer, unload that combine harvester whenever it needs it, and take the goods, the produce that you've just harvested out of that field to any particular sell point or silo that you have on the map, as long as you've wired it in. It does require, like I say, it does require a lot of learning. It does require a lot of setup. I will always, if a new map comes out and I'm really keen to play it, I will always spend a good few hours creating my own Autodrive network for that particular map, and get it set up as I like it, and then it gives me the option then to almost completely fully automize a lot of the work, which is kind of like, I like to play a little bit like that. Those of you who are familiar with my content know that I do a lot of cinematics, for example, and Courseplay and Autodrive are key to creating those cinematics to allow me just to float around and film it and make it, you know, make it look as cool as possible without having to worry and stress about driving the machinery and the tractor. So yeah, bit of a long waffle there, but Autodrive, one of my absolute go-to mods. I do have a couple of tutorial videos on my channel if any of you are interested and are unaware of Autodrive. There's a couple of basic tutorials there to get you started if you wish. There is a link in the video description below to download it. You can download Autodrive, a version of Autodrive, from the Giants Mod Hub, but the best place to go is Stephen S's, the creator's GitHub page, which I will also post a link to in the video description below. Next on the list is Contract HUD, or Contract Heads-Up Display, by Stinger Top Gun. Now this is quite simply a very simple mod. As you can see in the top of the screen there, we have a little display that says Active Contracts 1. It tells me I've got a contract on Field 5 and I'm currently 0% of the way through that. Now there is only one contract available for me to take on the map at the minute, just showing you that in the menu there, a spraying contract in Field 5. But quite simply, as you progress through that contract, that 0% will obviously make its way from left to right, from 0 to 100% as you get through the contract. Using the keyboard shortcuts Alt and M, you can change the display from having the percentage progress bar there on the right hand side. You can have it just display the percentage quite simply, or you can turn it off again if you wanted to. It's entirely down to you, but yeah, I always tend to have it just set on that setting, and as you progress through it, you'll see a little green bar go from left to right, tell you how far through the contract you are. Now, it just saves you a little bit of time in having to constantly keep flicking back into your contract menu, you know, back into as you wanted to see how far through it you are. It's just a really nice little simple quality of life mod. It's very helpful to have there when you're doing contracts. So yeah, Contract Heads-Up Display. Next one is Courseplay. Now again, much like Autodrive, Courseplay is very much deserving of its own hugely long video because it is quite complicated, much like Autodrive. I do have a couple of Courseplay tutorial videos on my channel. Please go check them out. I'll put the links in the video description below. But yeah, it's nowhere near as complex, I feel, as Autodrive. But again, it's essentially it's an external method of using the AI workers to complete field work for you. So essentially, I've jumped in the combine harvester here. I'll show you a very quick way to set up a Courseplay for this particular machine in this particular field. So you jump into your in-game menus, you go to your active workers menu. As you can see, you've got the create job button at the bottom there, which we can use to use the NPC workers without Courseplay installed. Go to create job, and instead of just sticking with what we're used to here with if you don't have Courseplay installed, just click right a couple of notches and it brings up the Courseplay field work. Now Courseplay is clever enough that it will detect the field that you're in, assuming that you're in a field. You open the course generator. It's again clever enough to decipher the width of the tool that you've currently got attached to your vehicle. In this case, it's the header for the combine harvester. You are free to you can customize it to use up to 5 vehicles in one field. Obviously, in this case, we're only going to use the one. You can then customize the number of headlands that you want to do. You can change whether you start on headlands, start on the field centers, headland corners. Again, you can adjust whether it performs them in a smooth way, whether it does them sharp. That's down to whether the field has sharp corners or not, or you can have them round. You can change the direction that it runs, headland clockwise or anti-clockwise. The headland overlap, again, that's just how much it overlaps each headland. The detail is massive with this. As I say, it's multiple tutorial videos in of itself, but Courseplay is a mod that I cannot live without. Like I said before when I was talking about Autodrive, using Courseplay and Autodrive, combine those together, they are both two very powerful mods that work wonderfully in conjunction with each other. But very simply, we will just create a field so I can show you doing it. I'll just click on generate field course, wait for a couple of seconds, and as you can see there now, it is displayed. Essentially, that is a route across the field that the combine harvester is going to follow. If you're not happy with it, you can go back into the generator, change it, and change all the different settings for how you want to change it. But essentially, that's it. So you can come back out of here, bring up the Courseplay menu, tell it to start at first waypoint. You can have the nodes on the course displayed in full, completely, or just the start and stop, or the bits that it has slightly ahead of it, if that makes any sense. But then you just click on go, and off it goes. It'll run that course for you, and then you can either yourself follow along with your unloader, or you can do it with Autodrive. It's very, very helpful, very powerful indeed. And as, again, like I said before with my Autodrive thing, because I like to do cinematics, you can just jump out of the machine, and combined with a couple of other wonderful mods that we'll touch base on, you can make it look a bit fancy and fly around and make a bit of a cinematic from it all. So, Courseplay, everyone. Now this is by Tensuko and Shweety6190. There is a version of Courseplay downloadable from the Giants Mod Hub, but to keep up to date with the latest version, they have their own GitHub page, which will be linked in the video description below. Next up is the Dusty Lands extension by FSG Modding. Now this is a wonderful little mod that just adds a lovely little bit of extra detail into your field work and your machinery. Essentially it does exactly what it says on the tin. It increases the level of dust, essentially. The base key bindings are left shift and comma to decrease the dust scale, left shift and full stop or period to increase the dust scale, and left shift and semicolon to toggle an exhaust effect on or off. So quite simply, I'll put this into demonstration. So to increase the dust scale, left shift and full stop, and you just press that. You can do that. You can increase it by various stages, but as you can see there, if I take it to its maximum there, there's now a whole load of dust clouding up around the combine harvester as it's working in the field. Now, depending on the level and capabilities of your PC, it can reduce FPS quite a bit. Sometimes it does for me anyway. So I tend to decrease it just a bit. As you can see, just keep on repeatedly pressing the comma there, and it drops down, goes back up again. But it's a wonderful attention to detail. This, it really does. If you've got a lovely a dry day, you're running a dry harvest, you're gonna expect to kick up a lot more dust, aren't you? So yeah, there it is. Quite simply, the Dusty Lands extension by FSG Modding. Next up, it's the Easy Development Controls mod by GTX. Now, coming from a content creator, this is an absolute must. If I had to choose one mod and one mod only to be in my mod folder, this would be it, purely because of the sheer amount of variety and customization that it enables you to do within the game on a map. It's just absolutely brilliant. Now, the default key binding for EasyDev is F12, but because I run my game on Steam, F12 is also the button to take a screenshot through Steam. So I've amended my default key binding to F6. So if we bring it up, the first general menu that you're met with is in front of us here. You can add money, you can remove money, you can set the money to be whatever you want it to be. You have extra timescales available to you, and you can also stop time. Now this is very helpful from my perspective anyway. It enables me to, say for example, I'm just about to start a recording on a particular series, but I can see that I've got a handful of bits and bobs to faff around with before I hit the record button, and I don't want to waste any in-game time, any valuable fieldwork time ahead of me. I'll stop that time, faff around, and then restart it again. You can enable flight mode, which again, from my perspective, making cinematics and such, is very, very helpful indeed. A very helpful tool to have. You can change the HUD visibility from here as well. You've got the HUD input, you've got a delete objects input, and you've also got a teleport option, which is very helpful if you want to get around really, really quickly. I'll put that into demonstration very quickly. So if we click on that tick there, and it'll bring up the in-game map, and you basically roam around. You can pick a location, so I'll pick the bottom of this field here. You can rotate and pick the rotation in which you want your character or vehicle to face. Press the button again, and sure enough, there we are in the bottom of the map. So going back to where we were, over here, there we go. Bring up the menu again. Now, forgive me, the teleport function also works within vehicles as well. So if I jumped into this vehicle and teleported, it would move this vehicle and anything that was attached to it. So it'll take the trailer, and say we had a front weight attached as well, it'll take anything that's attached to this vehicle to the point that you teleport to. So again, very, very helpful if you wanted to get around in a hurry. And there's a few settings here. You can change the overall quality setting of the game visually. You can show collectibles, and there's a couple of debug things here. Clear the i3D cache and reload store items, for example. Going down to the next page, we have the player menus here. So super strength, I think, is grayed out there because I also have the Lumberjack mod installed. But you can turn on the jump multiplier, which gives you higher heights of jumping. You can turn on the third-person view, which is very helpful. Now, I know we do have, we're going to have a variant of this in Farming Simulator 25, aren't we? Which I'm sure will be a little bit... I mean, this works perfectly well, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure the one that we'll be getting in Farm Sim 25 will probably run a bit smoother and be just be, all in all, a little bit better, no doubt. You can display a wood-cutting marker, turn that on or off, your aim markers. Now, you've got your running multiplier here as well. If I turn that on, it essentially means you can whiz around really fast, go full Speedy Gonzales, and you can adjust that speed from 2x all the way up to 14x, which is the fastest available. And you've got a running multiplier key there you can change, and a bit more debug information over here that I've very rarely played with. Over here you have object fill types. Now I'm just going to move myself into the empty yard here to demonstrate this, but again, very helpful if you're setting things up, especially from the content creator side of things. So let's say, for example, I wanted to spawn in front of me a 150 centimeter unwrapped grass bale. I select the relevant details there, click on the tick, boom, just falls out the sky. And again, I've only found one thing that this can't spawn, and that's Heston bales. You can spawn square bales up to 240 centimeters. Whatever product you can get in a straw bale, you can have in a straw bale. You can spawn, let's say we spawn a green wrapped 240 centimeter silage bale, and there it is. Nice and simple, nice and straightforward. You can also spawn pallets, whatever pallet is available in the game, whether it's a farm product, a base product like herbicide, manure, mineral feed, whatever. You can spawn it, a general, so, you know, pallets of chaff, clothes, eggs, fabric, whatever, you name it, you can spawn it if you need to. You can add logs in front of you, so say, for example, you can spawn whatever type of wood is available in the game in varying lengths. I know they spawn lengthways, so obviously you've got pine, stone pine, birch, American elm, shagbark, hickory, oak, maple, spruce. So let's say, for example, we wanted to spawn a 24 meter length of spruce log. We select the different length. There we go. And there you have it, a 24 meter length of spruce log, just like that. So very helpful if that's what you intend to do. Again, you can tip to ground as well. Again, I'll move myself into a bit of an empty spot here. But let's say, for example, I wanted to spawn 455 litres of wheat 3 metres in front of me. Click on the tick, and there we go. We've spawned 455 litres of wheat 3 metres in front of me. And let's say I wanted to clear the tip area that I've just created. I know that that should cover it, so I'll click on that. It's going to clear the tip area with a radius of 6 metres. There we go, all gone, nice and simple. So, and what you can also do, if you, obviously we've spawned some bales and we've spawned some logs. We didn't spawn pallets, but essentially I can remove the bales there that we spawned in front of us, and the log that I just spawned behind me. There we go, that's all gone as well. Had we spawned pallets, I could also do that as well. Just very, very helpful. The amount of things you can do with this mod is just wonderful, hence why it's an absolute must. So vehicles, in order to demonstrate the vehicle side of things, need to be in the vehicle. So we'll jump into this 6230 here. I'll jump out of cab just to show you. So let's say, for example, I wanted to fill the trailer that I've got here with wheat. So just quite literally click on that. It'll recognize the total capacity of the trailer that you've got attached. And there we have, bring up the heads-up display, sorry, we have a full trailer of 12,100 litres of wheat. Very helpful. And you can empty it. There we go, completely empty, or you can set. So let's say, for example, I wanted 47 litres of wheat. No, let's just change it. You can do anything you want. 47 litres of canola in the trailer. There we go. Pitiful amount of canola inside that trailer. And that's what you can do with that. You can also change the condition of the vehicles that you're in. So, say I wanted to give the convoy that I have here a 100% dirt mask. There we go. It'll change whatever implements and tools are attached to the tractor. It will give everything that's attached a 100% dirt mask. So that's very helpful, especially for roleplay stuff. And say, for example, you're doing a roleplay and you found an old tractor in a hedge that's been there for 30 years, or you wanted to, portray that across. You can give it 100% damage, and there you go. The tractor doesn't start anymore. As you can see from the bottom right-hand corner, the maintenance bar of our damage bar of our vehicle is now down to absolute 0 because I've just broken it. So again, very, very handy, very, very simple, but very effective. You can fill it with fuel. And you can also do things like changing the operating time. So if you wanted to customize how many work hours are on a particular vehicle, you can just type in a number there, off you go, job done. And again, a few debug settings. I've not really played with these settings over here, but just a few debug settings there to play with. Over here you have your placeables. Again, you can set the owner of farm-owned placeables or other different ones, NPC-owned ones. For multiplayer, for example, you can set an owner. Again, I've not really played with these settings much, but to those that will know what they're looking at here and can recognise the settings here, there's a whole load of stuff you can change here as well, so that's very, very helpful. Now the fields and farmland, that's another very, very awesome thing that you can do with this one. So I'll jump into a field for that. So let's say, for example, I click on field fruit, it will recognise that I'm in field 3, and let's say I wanted to change the state of this field to, let's say, a harvested state. There we go, just click on that tick, and it changes the whole field to a harvested state. You can see where I'm going with this, that you can, the things you can change. You know, I can change it from a harvested state, I can change it to whatever crop, I can give it fertiliser, give it weeds, whether it needs rolling or not, stones, lime, herbicides, stubble shredded, you name it, you can change it. And you can also do the same for the field ground. So say, for example, I'm in this field and I wanted to change it to a cultivated state. I won't mess around with all of these ones, but you can see what you can do with those. Click on confirm, and there we have the field is in a completely cultivated state. So that's absolutely brilliant. And what you can also do is you can change the weather and the environment. So I can change the month I'm in, the day, the time, and I can also change the weather. So let's say, for example, I wanted it to be raining. Let's just click on for variation 1, of which there are 4. Click on the tick, and there we now have a rainy day with a rainbow in the distance. Altogether a bit grey and miserable, but you can do everything in between that. So let's go back to sunny. Let's go for variation 4. Click on the tick. That thunder goes away. This is now what is termed as variation 4. So it's a blue sky, a few clouds in the sky, but altogether a little bit nicer than what it was a few moments ago. But again, very handy for roleplay, very handy for series creation, and just a wonderful, wonderful mod. It really is. And at the bottom there, you do have a help section that gives you a little bit more detail of all the different things and options that you have in all the different menus that we've just been through. So that felt relatively quickly. I suppose it was roughly around about 10 minutes, but that is the Easy Development Controls mod by GTX. Next up is the Extended Game Info Display by Peppy84. Now this is another lovely little attention to detail that just adds a little bit more information into your heads-up display. Top right corner of the information box there, as you can see, we've got a little bit more information than what we ordinarily have. This essentially expands the current game info display in the upper right corner by displaying the current year under the date, and activates a hidden temperature feature with an indicator of whether the temperature is falling or staying constant or rising. And there is also a minimum and a maximum temperature of the day. So as you can see there, we can see it says underneath the temperature of 32 degrees at the minute. We have a maximum temperature during today of 34 degrees, minimum of 24. To the left of that, you've got the thermometer icon, and just to the left of that again, you've got a very small little arrow pointing up. So at the minute, the temperature is on the rise. Obviously, we've got the sun icon, because I've just changed that before when I was using the Easy Dev. And obviously underneath where you can see it says August, it displays the current year. So we have year 1, and obviously if you're in year 5, it will say year 5, etc, etc. But another very simple but very effective and extra little bit of information from the Extended Game Info Display by Peppy84. Next one is the Field Calculator mod by KR Softwares. Now this is, again, it's one that I've always had activated in the game. I have found that there has been a slight difference in the numerical values that this mod produces based on whether you have precision farming running or not. But jumping into the menu, it gives you a new icon at the very top here. This one here that looks like it's an exhaust firing things out, or a machine firing things out. It looks like actually a slurry tanker, doesn't it? But essentially it gives you information based on every field on the current map that you're running, and it also differentiates between the fields that you own and the fields that you don't own. So for example, we'll use the current field that we're in at the minute. This is field 3, and it will tell us the size in hectares, 8.03, and it'll tell us quite simply each amount of each individual product that you will need to throw onto this field if need be. So lime, fertilizer, liquid fert, herbicide, manure, slurry and digestate. So it's a very helpful mod to have this if you want to even get the roughest idea of, for example, lime. We all know how much a field can drink lime. If you're not too sure how much lime that particular field you're thinking of will take, get this mod installed and you'll see roughly it's going to take 26,012.42 litres. I say roughly because, again, it depends whether you've got precision farming running or not. But again, the other thing that you can do with this, which is very, very helpful, is you can select which individual field you're working in, click on show seed consumption, forgive me, easy for me to say, and it will tell you how much seed for each individual crop that this field will consume. So 4,014 litres of wheat and barley. It will consume 1,605 litres of canola. So yeah, it's a very, very helpful little mod to have this. Very helpful indeed. So, the Field Calculator mod by KR Softwares. Next on the list is the HUD Toggle by Viper GTS 96. Now this is a very, very simple mod that doesn't really require much explaining. I know you can do this from various other mods as well, for example the Easy Development Controls mod, the additional game settings mod, for example, but this allows me to remove the HUD, for example, like this. Boom, at the touch of a button from my keyboard without having to go into any menus. I have remapped mine to be the spacebar. Forgive me, I can't actually remember what the default button is if you were to download this mod for the very first time. Like I say, I've remapped mine to be the spacebar. But yeah, very simply, I can just press one button and toggle the HUD on and off, and it stays on and off until I press the button again to bring it on. So another very, very quick, very, very simple demonstration of that. But yeah, the HUD Toggle by Viper GTS 96, one I honestly really can't live without. The next mod on the list is the Increased Light Range mod by Rival. Now again, very simply, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It increases the light range of high beam lights and work lights of vehicles. So this is what the game looks like without the mod activated. And this is what it looks like with it activated. As you can see, there's quite a considerable distance in the in the range of the light, quite simply, isn't there? But yeah, very, very helpful if you're working at night, of course. During the day, it makes no difference. But yeah, it just helps spread that light over a much wider distance, so it's you can see a lot more when you're driving around, see a lot more around you. Very, very helpful, but I've always got that mod running, always. Next up is the Info Display extension by Akimobile. So again, another relatively simple one. As you can see, I'm walking up next to one of my fertilizer silos here. The information box in the bottom right hand corner now displays a used and a total capacity. Without the mod installed, it just says this silo is empty. So now I can see that we've got nothing in it. It has a total capacity of 40,000 litres and we have 0 litres in it. But it's just a very, very helpful little mod. Now it also adds extra displays it does silos, it does production systems, it does animal sheds, dung heaps, it gives information for trees. It also works with the Platinum DLC for the roller coaster and the boat yards, and it does also add a little bit of extra information for vehicles and attachments. But if I walk into my farm silo here, again with this being a save that I've just created to create this video, ordinarily it just says that this silo is empty, but we can see it has a used capacity of 0 and a total capacity of 800,000 litres. It is very helpful to have that, just to, for example, if you started a save game with a pre-built farm and there's already some silos there and you weren't too sure exactly how much capacity each of those silos has, you just walk up next to it and it gives you a little bit of information. It also adds a little bit more extra info there as well. I think it tells you how many litres of diesel and what kind of power this vehicle's got, for example. Again, just very, very helpful. Just those little bits of detail that help you along your way during your game. Excellent mod. Info Display extension by Akimobile. Next up, it's the Lumberjack mod from Loki79. So this, I'm sure this one needs no introduction, does it? It's an absolute beauty, an absolute must-have. Now it'll probably be a lot easier and a lot more informative for you guys. Sorry if I just read from the text from the description of the mod on the Giants Mod Hub. This mod adds some quality of life improvements to making clearing trees with a chainsaw a little bit easier, but still retains enough realism to deserve the payment for selling the wood. The chainsaw can now grind stumps, and the super strength mode also grants the ability to completely delete trees. Control method to toggle the super strength is to hold down the Alt key for temporary strength, or to double tap the Alt key to toggle super strength on or off. Main features of the mod are a targeting marker to identify chainsaw aim point at all times, You can easily destroy small pieces of wood, similar to removing superficial branches. There is an adjustable chainsaw cutting speed and range. There is an adjustable object mass and pickup range, only when super strength is active. You can cut trees anywhere on the map, even on land that cannot be purchased, for example the shop. It displays the mass of viewed objects in the F1 menu. You can toggle super strength using Alt and increase brightness of targeting overlay to indicate when active. And the chainsaw can remove stumps by grinding for 3 seconds. So that's pretty much the main description of the mod. Obviously, to do this you need a chainsaw, and here we have one. I'm going to put the removing of trees into a bit of a demonstration. I'll pick this one here to start off with, next to this wall. So at the minute I'm just in normal mode. I don't have any super strength activated, so I'm highlighting the toggle on the tree there. If I double tap Alt, now this also, as it says in the description, this also activates super strength, but if you double tap it, the aim icon marker turns red. So you just hold your cut button down, there you go, and the tree is completely disappears. And that's quite simply it. Now, to add a little bit more demonstration into it, we'll remove the super strength mode, as it were. We'll go to cut the thing down. There we go. Let's chop it down. It should drop to the left. There we go. We'll deal with that in a second. And as you can see, when you hover over the tree stump, there we go, it goes red. So removing the necessity to purchase a stump grinder from the shop, you can just use that. Now this is very, very helpful, especially when it comes to building your own farms and you're not bothered about losing money or gaining money from selling wood. You just want to get rid of a load of trees if you found a nice area to build your farm. Very, very helpful indeed. Now obviously you can carry on with the usual functions of the forestry side of things. You can still remove the superficial branches and whatnot, but again, if I remove the chainsaw and activate super strength, you're then free to pick up the thing. You can hoy it over there if you so wish and move it into a better place. That's the super strength mode of Lumberjack there. If I drop it and double tap Alt, as you'll see, my hand is now coloured red because I can't pick it up because it's too heavy without super strength. But as you can see there in the top left, the help menu button box at the top left hand corner, it gives you the mass of the current piece of wood that you have in front of you. This one is 906.6 kilograms. So that's all good, but again, double tap super strength and quite literally just stand on it, wait for the icon to go red, and it can completely disappear. Now there's only one very, very minor, and I mean this properly, very, very minor thing that I found with this removing trees thing on a map. It's a temporary thing, and now I've said it, it's probably not going to happen, but when you delete a tree, just like I did with that one there, when it's still in the ground, and you go far enough away, I've found at times that the tree can still visibly appear again. And like I've said, sure enough, I've said it, and it's not going to do it. But if, to be fair, it sometimes works when I'm in flight mode. It used to do that for me anyway, but if I just jump into flight mode very quickly... Typical, isn't it, this? It's done this for me just about every single time. I'm keeping my eyes focused on that area there, but well, there you go. Yeah, it kind of reappeared again. Can you see that? If I zoom back out again, the tree reappears, and the only way to fix that is by coming in and out of the game again once you've got rid of all your trees. Oh, I'm glad it actually did it for me then. But yeah, very easy fix. Like I say, you just come in and out of the game, and it'll be completely disappeared for good then. But there we go. Another one of the must-haves, Lumberjack by Loki79. Right, next up on the list, I'm going to combine two of the mods that I use into this one video clip. The first one is Manual Attach by Wopster, and the second one is Realistic Cab View, again by Loki79, who made the Lumberjack mod. So while I'm in the cab, I'll demonstrate the Realistic Cab View. Essentially what that does is it limits your rotation to 180 degrees, so I get all the way around there to my right and all the way around there to my left, and it stops you there. But what it also does, and this is a very helpful thing, especially for a little bit of realism, and especially when you're combining the next mod that I'm going to talk about, Manual Attach, if I press Shift, especially while I'm looking at the back here, it gives you just that little bit of extra view room and capacity to see, well, to see the state of my reversing skills, that's for one. But it enables you just to see things a little bit better, so I can reverse up to the implement there, let go of Shift, and it just brings me back. But you can do that anywhere around the cab. And it's really, really helpful, it really is. And again, it just adds a little bit of extra realism. So that's quite simply the realistic cab view by Loki79. And now we have manual attach. Now, manual attach forces you to get out of your cab and quite literally attach all the tools, whether it's a plough, whether it's a tow behind sprayer like this, or whether it's a header onto a combine harvester, to attach things manually. When you're doing headers on combine harvesters, you do still need to drive up to it, and you do attach it with a button firstly. But with manual attach on, you then have to jump out between the cab and the header and attach the PTO and cables manually. Sometimes the cables don't necessarily need doing because some mods don't necessarily support manual attach very well. But in this case, we walk up to the machine. Now I use a PlayStation 4 controller, so my buttons are mapped slightly differently to what the mod initially comes with for the base game button maps. But essentially, as you can see, L1 on the central menu button, click that there, and then to do the PTO, I need to walk away and come back again sometimes, but to do the PTO, press that, and press and hold it, and that connects the cables. Again, like I say, sometimes you just need to step away and step back again for it to re-register, but there you go. Press it once for PTO, and press and hold it for the cables, and we're all set to go. Just a very, very simple, I say simple, I've got no idea how it was created, but I'm sure it was quite technical, but yeah, from our side of things as players, a relatively simple mod that just gives that huge amount of realism, and manual attach is something I always have turned on. You are free to turn it off in the menus if you wish. I'll show you which one. If you jump into the general settings menu here and scroll all the way down, manual attach appears in the menus here, so you can turn it off completely if you like, and then all those things go completely. You're then free to reattach normally to your heart's content. But there we go, 2 in 1 there. The realistic cab view by Loki79 and manual attach by Wopster. Next on the list, it's the Park Vehicle mod by Vertex Design. Now what this enables you to do is to essentially turn off the ability to flick between vehicles from your list of vehicles that you have on your farm. So we'll pick this 6230 to start off with. So essentially when you're in the vehicle, you press Control and T. Now keep your eyes on the bottom right hand side of the screen. If I press Control and T, underneath the gear shift selector there, you'll see a little red emblem appear with a little line through it. Now what that essentially means is I will know when I flick through my vehicles, I go to my telehandler, back over here to my harvester, to my little Fendt, to my other 6230, and back to the telehandler. This 6230 here has been completely removed from that list. And I think this can be very helpful if you've got a huge amount of vehicles, or you're just looking to work in a field with 1 or 2 particular vehicles. It helps me out all the time, especially when I'm doing big jobs with just 1 or 2 vehicles. I can park all the others and just flick between the 2 vehicles that I'm working with. It can be quite helpful if you've got quite a lot. And quite simply, jump back into the vehicle when you want to unpark it, press Control T again, and there we go. We're back to it. We can flick to it through our list of vehicles. Nice and simple, but very effective. The Park Vehicle mod by Vertex Design. Next one on the list, it's the Realistic Player Size by Jason06. Now again, much like all the others, very simply, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It reduces the player size. Now ordinarily, base game wise, the character that we are on the game, regardless of what design you have your character as, you're relatively tall and quite a giant. Now what this does is this essentially just reduces the player size from 2.02 meters tall to 1.86. Now unfortunately at the minute on this map, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any doorways that are ordinarily quite difficult to get through, but I'm sure we've all experienced that. There are a handful of mods out there with some wonderful workshops that when you open the door you're actually quite tall, and it can be a bit awkward sometimes to squeeze through, just because your character seemingly fills the door frame. But with this realistic player size, we're kind of down here at the minute, which is a little bit more real. I suppose it makes you more of an average size as opposed to a giant. But yeah, it's helped me a lot when this mod came along and I discovered it. As I said, a lot of the save games I had, I used a lot of modded workshops and American sheds, for example, where the doorway just seemed, whether the doorway was too small or in reality it was probably the player that was too big, it just made everything work again. As soon as you activate the mod, it just makes it that little bit smaller and a little bit less cumbersome when you're trying to squeeze yourself through a door frame. So very handy little mod. Realistic Player Size by Jason06. Next mod on the list is the Repair and Paint Settings by Ragman2414. Now this mod essentially adds a very small little extra bit into the game settings menu. Jumping in there very quickly. As you can see, here we are, game settings below the main bit where you can pause the game, rename the game, that's this little section here. We have this new bit here called Maintenance Cost and Painting Cost. Now essentially this gives you the option to increase or reduce the percentage of how much each of these individual settings relate to. So maintenance cost, you can have it set to the base standard as 100%. You can increase it to 125 or up to 150, and the minimum you can go to is 25, and it goes up in 25% increments from there. So 25, 50, 75, 100, and that's the same thing for the maintenance interval. Specifies how much damage the vehicle gets. You can reduce that down to 25% at its least. The cost of the paint, because we know paint costs can be quite ridiculous sometimes in this game, quite frankly, and it can happen quite quickly. So the minimum you can reduce that to is 25%, and the paint interval is again altering in 25% increments from 25% all the way up to 150%. I must admit, personally, I always tend to just reduce all of these things down to 25% for most of the game saves that I play. Just because I still have to maintain the vehicles. I'll still occasionally, depending on the vehicle or the mod, I might choose to repaint it if it looks a little bit worn and battered. But I must admit, I do like a worn and battered looking tractor. It looks used and proper, doesn't it? But yeah, there we go. Another one that I always have running, the Repair and Paint Settings by Ragman2414. Next up, it's the Save Player Position mod by DD Mod Passion. Now this is a mod that just helps me out. It's one of those really small but very effective quality of life mods. It does exactly what it says on the tin, much like all the others. It saves your player position when you exit the game. So regardless of where you are on the map, whether it's land you own, land you don't own, doesn't matter. Wherever you are on the map, when you save the game and come back into it, your character is where you left him or her. It doesn't spawn in the base place or at the front door of where your sleep trigger is, for example. It just lands you where you left off, which is very helpful, especially if you're doing something quickly and activating a mod or deactivating a mod, or just doing something quickly to come in and out of the game. It's just one of those really nice little quality of life things that means you haven't got to, make your way back to where you were to carry on the work you were doing before you came out of the game. It's just very helpful to just land and start you off exactly where you left off. So very simple, but in my opinion, very effective. The Save Player Position mod by DD Mod Passion. Next up, it's the Store Deliveries mod by Viper GTS 96. Now this is one that's been in my games forever and ever and ever. It's just a wonderful thing. Again, massively effective in saving your time, especially when you're trying to set up game saves or set up stories or whatever. Or just if you're feeling slightly lazy and you want to buy a load of machinery or one piece of equipment and you don't really want to trek all the way from wherever you are to potentially the other side of the map to the store to go and pick it up. Have this mod installed, it saves you all that time. So quite simply, using your keyboard shortcut of Alt, Shift and S, to start off with, if you just press Alt and Shift, you'll see it brings up an orange circle in front of me here. This is where your control lies over the spawn of the vehicles or implements that you're looking to purchase. So for the demonstration of this one, we will spawn it here. So I hold Alt, Shift and S. When I press S, you hear that little click? That's now set the shop point directly in front of me here. And you can see that by jumping into the map very quickly. There we are. Where am I? Right, so I'm here. So as you can see there, ignore that one because that's the farm workshop. But this here, Store Deliveries, as you can see, it's put the all too familiar basket icon for the shop. That's now directly in front of us. So putting it into demonstration again, let's just go and buy the first thing, the Porsche Diesel Junior 108. Yep, we don't need to worry about any of that. We'll purchase that. And there we go. Now as you can see there is also an additional little bit of information that's cropped up there. The one thing it does come with is a 2.5% delivery cost, which makes about sense, doesn't it? If you buy something and you want it delivered, you probably ordinarily have to pay for it. So regardless of the amount of money that you're spending on whether it's a tractor, an implement or anything, you'll be charged a 2.5% fee for the store deliveries, which is fine. It's one of those, isn't it? So that as you go, that's the Store Deliveries mod. Now when you want to reset it and you want to turn it back to the standard point of the whatever shop is on the map, again, hold down Alt, hold down Shift, left Shift, and then reach over and press R, and you'll see the orange circle just flicker there. Let's jump back into the menu. As you can see, the Store Deliveries icon has disappeared. And if we make another quick purchase for another one of these tractors, just for the purposes of the demonstration. Jump into that one. And as you can see, this is the one we've just purchased. It's back over at the default area outside the shop. So, nice and simple, but wonderfully effective store deliveries mod by Viper GTS 96. Next up, it's the quite frankly wonderful time-saving stock check by TW Productions. Now this really is a keeper. This is, if again, much like the Easy Dev controls, if I had to pick one or two mods that absolutely had to be in the folder for every game save, this would be one of them. It's so very useful and does exactly what it says. It saves you so much time. So as you can see, I have jumped over onto my Court Farm series game save here because I actually have things to display in the time-saving stock check, whereas Calmsden, where I was before, that was just a kind of an empty game save that I'd gone on there just to produce this video. But essentially what time-saving stock check does, it allows you to see all the goods that you have stored in your silos, your production and animal husbandry outputs. It gives total volume, it gives current price and value, it gives you which sell point to sell at, it gives you potential best price and value, and in which month that might be. So, jumping into the mod itself, as you can see, it is displayed underneath the weather and above the commodity prices section. It has its own little icon, hand with the prices above it. And as you can see, I've got quite a lot going on here on Court Farms, with it being quite an established series and farm. But it does exactly that. I've got 37,000 litres of wheat in a silo. It tells me at the current time it's worth £314 per 1,000 litres. Its current value is just under 12 grand. If I was to sell it at best time, which is January, it's just over 15 grand at match price at £407 per 1,000 litres. And it does that for everything: seeds, eggs, wool. Well, obviously you can see the list in front of you, can't you? It tells me that there's no sell point for TMR, there's no sell point for water, but I've got over 1.4 million litres of chaff. It's worth 70 odd grand in February if I was to sell it then. It is so very useful, and it saves so much time going in and out of menus, going, right, where do I sell this? Where's this sell point? Where do I go? What's this? What time of year? It's just wonderful. It really is. Now it does also have its own colour display menu as well. Unfortunately, at this current time, everything is in white, and in the description on the Giants Mod Hub, white means nothing special. But I'll run very quickly through the colour chart. White is nothing special if your text is displayed in yellow. The current value is over 90% of the best potential value. If it's displayed in dark green, the current value is over 95% of the best potential value. And if it's displayed in bright green, the current value is over the best potential value. And also the current month is highlighted in bright green to alert you which is the best potential month to sell. So if I was in, for example, if I was in January now, January there would be displayed in bright green. To tell me that I'm in the month to sell the current crop that I'm looking at in the mod. But it's absolutely wonderful. It combines so much information, especially if you've got such a busy farm like I have here on Court Farms, with so many different products that can be sold at different times and different places. This just combines it all into one easy to read, easy to understand display in front of you, and it is literally wonderful. Very, very grateful for the creation of this mod. So there we go. Time-saving stock check by TW Productions. And last but not least, and it's only last because it begins with the letter V, is a mod called Vehicle Explorer. Now, if I'm honest, of all the mods that I've displayed to you in this video, Vehicle Explorer is the one that I've heard the least about, or I've heard the least amount of people using it. Now, what it does, it's a relatively simple mod. Now, this is one of the two mods in this list that aren't actually available on the Giants Mod Hub. But what this does, it allows you to customize and alter the order in which you can flick through your vehicles. And that's something, whether it's particular to me or not, that's something I've always liked to be able to do on all of my game saves, is customize the order in which you flick through your vehicles. Now, ordinarily, the order that you flick through your vehicles in is the order in which you purchase them in, or the order in which the game file gives it to you when you start a save game, when you start with the new vehicles. But the way in which to do that and use this mod is to press Alt and V, and it essentially just brings up a list in the center of the screen there, as you can see, with all the vehicles that you own on the map. Now, this will also, if you're on a map that has a train on it, a locomotive, you will also see that train in the list as well at the very bottom, and it will have a P in brackets next to it as if it's parked, because most of the time you can't jump into that vehicle, that train, when you're flicking through your list of vehicles. But as you'll see here, we're not in a vehicle, so my name isn't displayed next to one of the vehicles there. For example, like if I just jump in it there now, you'll see FARMERSIM is in the 6230R with 269 horsepower, and it's now highlighted in green. But just to make things a little bit simpler, I'm going to jump out the vehicle. So the way I like to do it, and again this is down to personal preference, I like to organise my vehicles in order of power. So the one with the least power here is the 5170 Agri Pro, which is the telehandler. So what you do is you hold the hold left alt, and using the numpad on the right hand side of the keyboard, using 8 and 2 to go up and down, I go down to the telehandler, which in this case is the one with the least amount of power. I then press the number 5 in the centre, and you'll see it changes to red. That means I can now shift this up the list. I then press 5 again, and it's now at the top. I then go down again to find the next least powerful vehicle, which is actually the one that is actually right there, isn't it? The one that's in the correct order. So technically now everything there is in the correct order. But for example, there's the combine harvester. Just for the sake of demonstration purposes, I'll put this at the top. So that's the first vehicle. So if I'm stood on my feet, that'll be the first vehicle, or it should be, that we get into. So the order in which we go through them from foot is harvester, telehandler, Fendt, and then the 2 John Deeres. So there we go. Harvester, telehandler, Fendt, and then the 2 John Deeres, and then back to the harvester. It's really simple, it's very effective, and again it's just something that is a quality of life thing that I've always liked. I did find a mod on Farming Simulator 19 that did the same thing, but it was an external mod, and you went into a file that was outside of the game and you changed the order in which the vehicles were selected from that file, and then went back into the game, and your list of vehicles was in the order in which you selected. But this one is just wonderful. Just Alt and V, as I say, just free to select whichever one and put it in whichever order you want. It's very helpful when you're obviously down here where we've got 5 vehicles. It's quite easy to see, but when you've got a long list of vehicles, it can be very helpful if you like the idea of customizing the order in which they appear and when you flick through them. So, Vehicle Explorer by Spergerbyte. And that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my list of 22 must-have mods for Farming Simulator 22. Now, there are a lot of other mods that I do also have running as well, and sometimes have them running to start every save game off as well, but these were the main ones. If I had to choose 22 of the main ones, you've seen them. This is what I've included in today's video. So, I do hope you found the video even remotely interesting, and if there's any mods that you haven't heard of before, there will be links in the video description below. As I say, all of them, I think 20 of them in total, are all available on the Giants Mod Hub. The 2 that aren't are the Realistic Player Size by Jason06. There will be a link to somewhere where you can download that off the internet, and also the one we've just covered, the Vehicle Explorer by Spergerbyte. Obviously there will be a link for the download of that one as well, but all the others are downloadable from the Giants Mod Hub. The links will be in the video description below. So, as I say, I hope you found it interesting. I hope I might have been able to introduce you to at least 1 or 2 mods that you've liked the sound of or like the look of, and that you can go and download and try for yourself. So, thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. As always, if you're new to my channel and you like my content, you like the way I'm doing things, please consider hitting that subscribe button and jumping on board, joining the channel. Please give the video a like if you can. It does do wonders. It helps the YouTube algorithm do its thing. And as always, there are a host of links in the video description below with my Giants Partner promo code. If any of you are in the market for purchasing a DLC, an add-on, a season pass, or even the full game itself, or even pre-ordering Farming Simulator 25, and you like the idea of helping a content creator out and supporting their channel, as always, I would be massively appreciative. So thanks again for your time, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.